IVM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 32 of the Fighting G.O.A.T, where your host and host Somesh, the Superhuman Kamra, and Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, Chipalkatti, will run you through some exciting content. A lot more on the show, talking about submission artists, the week that was, and what's coming up. All this after this short commercial break.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by podcasters Yogi Kabir and Sarthak Mishra, along with Arjun Koladi from Spotify to talk about the shifts brought by the growth of podcasting and what it means for the culture of tomorrow. On a show about crypto, Rohan is joined by Gaurav Garg, head of research and crypto expert at Capital Via. They discuss decentralized autonomous organizations. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav introduces us to the real Wasipur and is a dark shadow of coal, mining and the mafia. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks about the education loan industry in India with Ankit Mehra, founder and CEO of Gyan Dhan. On The Habit Coach, Ashton is joined by Gaurav Bhagat to share various tiny habits for professionals. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Inter. We appreciate the support.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are on episode 32 of the Fighting G.O.A.T, where Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, the man himself, and so Superhuman Kamra talk everything combat just with you one-on-one. And this week, we're going to be talking about the week that was, which was the return of Diego Santos and Johnny the Walker, who obviously promised a great show, but it didn't go his way. And obviously, the return of Mackenzie Dern in the coming week. One unfortunate incident in bare knuckle fighting championship. And of course,
just something.
A topic that is so hot in India right now, which is submission grappling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes,
First and foremost, Mystic Chips, how has it been? We were back in the studio for the Ultimate Guide to UFC, and it was such a deja vu moment where we finished a great round of recording and we went to Panchmuki. We went to Panchmuki after.
Panchmuki is this unbelievable dive bar that clearly does not seem to be affected by coronavirus, because it's the only bar I know that has not raised its rates. In fact, it was cheaper. And
absolutely.
And it's always delivered, man. Yeah, we have to. This is some free promotion for Panchmuki. I don't care whatever they say. They don't need to pay me. But it was pretty awesome. That's always been our dive bar after the shows. But
just some more garlic chicken out there.
The garlic chicken, yeah. I mean, yaad mat dena. But it really, but that garlic chicken, as good as it tastes, baad mein, it's a little bit of a punch to the gut, huh?
Absolutely. The name of the place is Panchmuki for the reason.
Anyway, but before we get into all the fun that happened, it was a bit of a somber moment, which is, we've always said that, it's such a great sport, MMA and kickboxing and fighting, but it's also a very real and realistic damage sport. It is. Boxing has caused so many issues in the past. We've spoken about, PTE, PTSD, and so many illnesses that come from the constant damage that goes to you. But it's like how Mike Goldberg kept saying, so do you want to be a fighter? Do you really want to be a fighter? It's a real question. It's a real question because
absolutely
a veteran like Justin Thornton, who was fighting at BKFC 20, suffered a knockout loss that was bad enough for him to be put in hospital for a couple of months. And sadly, he has succumbed to his injuries. He passed away 2 days ago. And it is from his fight, it is what it is. These were, he knew
it's so
these
crazy,
things going on.
It's so crazy that you say this because sadly, the world of boxing has seen deaths which are after fights. There are, a couple of deaths which have happened inside the ring. The sport of mixed martial arts has been fortunate enough not to see a fatality of that extent as yet in the sport. But however, having said that, guys, whoever are in the sport, whoever are training, please just be careful of yourself. be smart about training. Don't go
Yes.
crazy out there because it's the human body. You need to take care. I know anything can happen anytime.
Yeah,
We all know that.
It's
But, you just need to take care of yourself. And,
not just take care of yourself. It's also listen to the rules of your coaches. Listen to the voice of the referee, the coaches, the referee. Everybody loves to see that version of Rocky Balboa, coming back after a beating against even Drago, but that doesn't exist in real life. You know what
Right.
happens to those guys? They go through multiple problems. That's never going to end. There are always going to be Rockies throughout the career, or throughout many careers in fighting. But then, what happened to Justin Thornton was a reality of it. When sometimes
it's
you
so
get
sad.
knocked out
It's so
hard.
sad.
And that's the thing also with bare knuckle fighting. As entertaining as bare knuckle fighting it is, that was the barbaric part that MMA didn't take part in. They said, we're
Exactly.
going to give you gloves. We're going to have rules. We're going to have gloves. And that's what people are questioning. Will BKFC get a lot of flack for this? Because, there is a certain amount of criticism that goes along with, bare knuckle fighting. Then people are like, then what is the difference between them and what Kimbo Slice used to do in the backyards, along with
Absolutely.
Masvidal and the other guys?
Absolutely. In fact, there seems to be no difference. And I do feel this unfortunate incident isn't going to work in their favor.
Let's see. It's going to be a PR nightmare no matter what. It's just, fighter safety is everything. And BKFC did their bit, They immediately took him to hospital. They got the MRI
Correct.
done. But it was just an unfortunate situation. I mean, the guy had been a veteran fighting for so many years. So, on behalf of Mr. Kamra and I at the Fighting G.O.A.T, all we can say is rest in peace, Mr. Thornton. And my condolences to your family and the entire community. Guys, stay safe.
Absolutely.
Train properly.
Absolutely.
But as they say, the show must go on. And the show went on in the UFC last week.
Well, yes,
but before we
indeed.
get to the main event, dude, we saw the return of Kevin Holland. And I got to say, Kevin Holland has taken the advice of his coaches. His takedown defense looked a lot better against somebody like Duckhouse. Yes, it did.
It did.
Until that unfortunate headbutt. And it was weird because he got headbutted. He was down. Duckhouse submitted him, but was still ruled a no contest. And I don't understand how that happened because
slightly controversial decision out there because I believe Kevin Holland was almost knocked out in the game.
Yeah, he was out of it. Yeah,
and then he got submitted, and it still turned out to be a no contest.
But tell me something. Yeah. Then how can the rules be different for? Say, okay, you get headbutted, you get submitted, and it's a no contest. Then what happened with Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling when there was an illegal shot being thrown? Then it should have been a no contest and ruled in the favor of the champ, saying it's a no contest. It was a mistake.
Well, that's a very good argument, and in fact, that's a very, very good point that you made, because typically what happens in this situation is that a headbutt is considered as a foul which is non-intentional.
Yeah.
And a knee to a grounded opponent is considered intentional.
Yeah. Yes,
so that is the only difference that comes into play. And that is why Peter Yan unfortunately lost his belt.
Yeah.
But because the headbutt, since it's non-intentional, it is considered as a no contest. It's as simple as that.
But it's, it's such a gray area at the end of the day is, sometimes a submission held on a little too long can also result in a no contest. Like guys like Babalu Sobral and Rusimar Palhares were famous for this.
Yeah.
They won their fights, but then the decisions were overturned. Once or twice in the past, we've seen decisions overturned in grappling as well.
Nahi chodunga main isko.
Nahi chodunga. But that's the horrible thing, man. I mean, some of these guys are mental. And, it's unfortunate. The fight had to end that way. But I think, a headbutt is unintentional, and that victory should have gone to the opponent, his opponent.
Yeah.
Kya
But, yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the game. But, there is somebody who took the unanimous decision, which is Nico Price, the man who's just going to become a father of his 6th child.
Is that you, Anik?
Defeated someone who already has 11 children, Alex Oliveira.
Sorry, what? 11 children?
Can you imagine between these two fighters there are 17 children?
So
like
basically,
1-7.
Basically, Alex Oliveira has taken someone's advice from, in the 80s India. इतने बच्चे पैदा करो कि क्रिकेट मैच हो जाए, क्रिकेट टीम बन जाए. He's literally got 11 players.
Well, yeah.
Are they all boys?
I don't know about that, but I do know that there is no substitute as yet.
Man, can you imagine his parent-teacher conferences? back to back. like काम से छुट्टी लेना पड़ा, नहीं PTC जाना है 11 बच्चों के लिए, है ना? But
oh God,
what is not a laughing matter? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
But there is somebody who was talking a lot in this particular press conference in the light heavyweight division, Johnny Walker, who said he's come back. He's come afresh.
This is before the fight, right?
Before the fight, and he's coming to take over the division. Johnny Walker was facing someone called Thiago Santos, who's not had a very good run, in fact, who's had damaged knees. He's got knee surgeries.
Yeah.
Very,
thanks
very
to John
difficult.
Jones.
Thanks to John Jones. Very difficult downward graph to his career at the moment, but he still managed to pull off the victory. Thiago Santos defeated Johnny Walker in a unanimous decision.
If you see that fight, it was. I think you were the one who told me that Daniel Cormier called it a very lackluster performance.
No, I mean he called it. He called it the most boring fight ever.
I mean, okay, it can. We must do a segment of the least action fights ever, like Houston Alexander versus Kimbo Slice, or
Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya.
Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya, Nagano versus Derek Lewis, and now we have
where there were like 2.5 strikes.
Seriously, and now we have Santos versus Johnny Walker.
That would be a very good segment, actually. Least action fights.
And guys, as always, you remember our merchandise is ready. It's going to be going out to anyone who plays our games, who responds to us, and who talks to us on social media. So share your thoughts. If your thoughts are the same as ours, well, your chance to win t-shirts, fridge magnets, and a lot more only on the Fighting Goat. So keep listening to us, man.
Absolutely.
And saying that, we did get a lot of responses from the fans in the last few weeks where they've been sending. And a shout out to Vishal Maheskar who got all the picks right and screamed, "Where's my t-shirt?"
Yeah.
So don't worry, buddy. That t-shirt is coming your way. And before we get into our segment, it's a big thank you to a lot of people who've been supporting us. We are on episode number 32. It's a great ride so far, and we have about 3,000 more to go. So stay tuned. We're coming back after this quick commercial break with a lot more content where we get into the world of submission grappling. You're listening to The Fighting Goat. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh, and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Fighting Goat, where Mystic Chips and me, Somesh Superhuman Kamra, are going to talk about the top submission artists.
Yes, sir.
But again, ladies and gentlemen, these are our picks, but we would love to hear from you. Who are your top submission artists? They don't have to match with ours. Please take part. Please tag us, hashtag us. Enjoy the conversation. Argue with us. Let's have a conversation and let us know who are your top submission artists in the sport of mixed martial arts, and get a chance to win some exciting merchandise, t-shirts, fridge magnets, and a lot more. But what's more fun is to chat with us and let's have some banter, buddy.
Yes, sir. Now, you know what the thing is? Now, this is a damn tough thing to do, because there have been submission artists and there have been submission artists. And then you've got you've had guys from the Pride like Fedor. Fedor was a great submission artist.
Yes.
He used his sambo and his striking perfectly, and his sambo and striking perfectly. And then you've had pure submission artists like Damian Maia, where you just see the beauty of it happening. It's like a chess game where it's just move after move that is being carried out in order to reach that perfect moment.
Right.
And before we get into the best submission artists, in fact, I'll tell you, I got a chance when I had a chance to meet Dennis Hallman, who is one of the best submission artists I've seen in person. Highly, and he was, Like, back in the day, Somesh, you remember when Matt Hughes was the welterweight champion? Matt Hughes was one hell of a submission artist himself.
Absolutely.
And-
In fact, there are so many good names that people don't remember. When we speak of submission artists, of course, people speak of the Nogueiras and they speak of Fedor. Fabricio Verdum is definitely top there. Damien
Frank Mir.
Frank Mir. Frank Mir is so crazy. If he gets a hand on you, oh my God!
You remember that? You remember that Kimura on Nogueira?
Oh God! Oh man! Oh
God,
no
Jesus.
ways! That actually sent a chill down my spine. To be honest,
scary. I mean, Herb Dean sent us that X-ray. The bone snapped.
Do you know? When I met Frank Mir in Las Vegas, I met him at Floyd Mayweather's gym when I was there, and when I shook his hand, it was like shake. It was like actually holding a brick. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, if this guy has intentions to grab me with that grip and snap my elbow, it'll take precisely 0.5 seconds.
Dude, he probably has to just shake our hands to break us. Just shake our hand. Like it's like shaking hands with Jacare. I shook hands with Jacare. I died.
Yeah.
It's like ये है क्या?
Bhaiya mera haath.
अरे भैया मेरा हाथ नहीं भैया हमारा हाथ. It is like that. That's the thing with these submission grapplers who are such experts. The minute submission grapplers are not like wrestlers. So the difference is basically wrestlers are some of the toughest people. They've got great grip. They've got great control. But the submission grapplers are, of course,
someone like a Ritu Fogart.
Yeah, like a Ritu Fogart who comes in with pure wrestling. Will take you down, and then they learn the submission game on the ground.
Correct.
Submission grapplers, guys like Charles Oliveira, do not possess those wrestling chops. They might not be there to take you down, but God forbid if he pulls you down in guard, if he gets control of your back or your leg or your
game
knee,
over.
It is very, very scary. Very scary. Over. I mean, okay, Somesh, which is the scariest? Which is one of the? Okay, I'll start with mine. Okay, in the world of leg locks, I think one of the most scariest submission artists, especially for a heel hook or a knee bar, was Rusimar Palhares.
Undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly. People, the minute you went down to the ground with Rusimar, they were like, "Hi, TV band kar do. We know what's going to happen."
Correct.
I mean, the brutality with which he executed it. And let's not forget, one of the best armbar specialists in the female division was Ronda Rousey.
Absolutely, yes. You know what, but people know all of that. Let's start with who you think is a submission artist who is not glorified or known for his game. The first person who I could think of, who I saw way back in the day, is Shinya Aoki.
Dude,
in the Pride days.
Shinya was a great submission artist,
but he doesn't come on as a legend. But Shinya Aoki has 19 submission wins out of his 35 fights.
See, that's crazy.
Shinya Aoki was one of the scariest guys out there who actually could just take, he could pull guard. So if he's on his back, it's a huge problem. If he takes you down, oh my God,
that's
God
true.
save you. God save you.
Now that you mentioned that, I think there's this Scottish fighter, Daniel Craig. I think it's we saw his submission game, which of course he's not the same. He's not got the same stardom as Jacare and Verdum and Damien Maia, but you can see that he's very lethal, and the way he isolates that left arm, he just doesn't let go.
It's insane. Like some of these guys who are coming out, and the thing is that
Craig,
there are guys who, there are guys who come out there, who put in the lock and, when the person submits, they leave. And there are some of those mean guys who come in with that intention to crack the arm or dislocate the shoulder.
I mean,
and,
Babalu was one of them.
It just gets crazy.
Babalu
was one of them.
Babalu Sobral, Renato Babalu Sobral was one of them who
absolutely
who is who has had that kind of that kind of history where he has gone and held on to chokes a little more, and then we've got like fighters like who are real prodigies like BJ Penn. The minute BJ got your back, you're in trouble.
It's game over.
It's game over. Trouble. I mean, guys like BJ Penn revolutionized jiu-jitsu. They made jiu-jitsu really popular. because
Correct.
BJ won like championships in like what takes normal fighters, normal athletes to do 6-7 years. He did that in 3
Yeah.
years.
Absolutely.
And that was just an
abs-
exceptional level of grappling.
And if you remember the guest on our previous show,
Yes, sir. Of course.
Bobby Southworth said when BJ Penn had come into the gym, he was an absolute fresher with a basic striking background.
Yeah.
And Bobby Southworth and his team really worked on his wrestling and jiu-jitsu and eventually got him to where he was. Of course, Bobby was very, very, like he was kind of not boasting about it, and he was like, "No, it's not me. But everybody
that's
knows
that's Bobby, man. He's just a nice guy.
he was very humble about it. But to be honest, your first coach is always going to be your first coach. And speaking of first coach, the next name that comes to my mind is none other than Josh Barnett.
Oh my God,
And-
the War Master.
And Josh Barnett was so mean. It's quite funny because he started his career in 1997.
Shit. I mean, what
And
were we
he's-
doing in 97? We were in school, I think. Yeah.
And he's still fighting. Can you imagine that? He's still fighting.
Where is Barnett fighting now?
So Barnett, he's still contracted with one of these organizations and he's still fighting. I mean, I can't recollect the name right now, but I did see at the start of this year that Barnett was fighting some. I'm like, Josh Barnett, holy hell, it's almost
Josh
been 22,
Barnett.
23 years.
It's crazy, man. Like 23 years.
And he too, 19 submission wins in his 31 career wins.
Shit.
And
And-
these are all mean guys
Mean
crack
guys,
elbows,
No,
dislocate shoulders.
no, but dude, for me, that the meanest in that sense, who falls into that category, was Jacare Souza, one of the most dangerous submission artists, and
He's a
Fabricio
SOB, yeah.
Verdum. And Fabricio Verdum shocked the world by guillotining
Cain Velasquez.
Cain Velasquez and Fedor Emelianenko.
Yes.
Like he submitted Fedor at Strike Force, and and Fedor was still in that, Joby, he's not going to lose era.
Correct.
And when
he
he
just
saw
joined
that,
Strike Force.
yeah, correct. But of course, and the thing is that Fedor also, it's not like he tapped like he was just like one manly tap, like, yeah, okay, stop.
Done.
Like,
Yeah.
It's okay, I will die, but stop. I will say only one time, stop, otherwise I will choke. and Verdum was an incredible submission artist who built up his striking. I remember before he submitted Cain, he was piecing up Cain Velasquez in the department.
Yes, he was.
He had him busted. He had him bleeding. He landed knees, and his Muay Thai looked so good. And then,
Right.
boom, the minute Cain shot in, he got caught. He got caught by that submission.
Absolutely. And in fact, that was a fight.
That was a great fight. And that's what the beauty of the submission artist game has become. Earlier, they were these purist submission artists, where guys like Maya,
Right.
where if Maya can't take you down, you're cool. Like, you're okay.
Yeah.
You'll survive. But
Yeah,
now
yeah.
now these guys have developed such great striking. It's like guys like Charles Oliveira, who is the current UFC lightweight champion. If Charles is not even worried about throwing shots and kicks and anything, he's not. Because what's the
Correct.
worst that will happen? You'll take him down to his danger zone.
Man, that is, that's so crazy. And speaking of Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier has accepted the fight and they are fighting for the lightweight championship belt in December this year.
But it's coming now, man. That's 2 months away.
Yeah, it's
so
right
good.
now. It's
When
right
you-
now.
Well, we'll be there to open up the pre-show. So we're in the
Absolutely,
hot
absolutely.
seat, man.
Man, that's crazy.
If I had to go back and even pull out, like you said, we talked about underrated submission artists. Even the Spider himself, Anderson Silva, had some good submissions. He was great
In
off his
fact,
back.
Most people don't even know he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's just that
Dude,
he's so fond of striking.
Third degree black.
Man, he's a third Dan black belt. Oh my God.
I mean, Silva's black belt is again underrated. Like, you don't see him use it, but he's a great submission artist. He's a great submission grappler. But then,
Well, for those who have not seen, need to go back on that Chael Sonnen fight and see how
dude,
late into the 4th minute of the last round, Silva
Dude,
pulls off a
I
submission.
I was pulling my hair out. I had long Hannibal. I had almost become a crew cut by the end of that fight. Because I was like, oh my God, he's going to lose. Oh my God, he's going to lose. Oh my God, he's going to lose. And bang, out of nowhere, he catches the arm and throws up the triangle and he makes Chael tap. I mean, shit, dude. I mean,
Beautiful. That was so beautiful.
we're going to do a segment for like last minute finishes, like, finish in the last minute. Like
we've already planned 2 more episodes on this episode.
Yeah, it's seriously, it's we will get into it with these guys. The problem is, guys, I agree that we are all over the place, but you have to remember that we're fans at the end of the day. So as in when we talk about it, of course, when we sit and do our Legends episode, which is going to debut once a month, it's going to be in the first week of every month, it's going to be a Legends episode. In that, of course, we'll sit and focus on, a fighter in particular. And if you have any suggestions out there, come tell us. Who do you want to hear about? Who do you want to hear about in entirety? What clips do you want to see? What pictures do you want to see? Anything. And that, perhaps with your suggestions, that might give us a chance to go grab them for an interview.
Absolutely, yes. And speaking of picture, the one person who comes to my mind when it comes to a picture-perfect Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu finish is none other than Henzo Gracie.
Oh, he's the godfather, man.
Who created such a stir in the world of MMA.
Was it Royce or Henzo? Royce as well, right?
So basically, Royce was definitely there in my list. Henzo Gracie is the guy who lost to Matt Hughes in UFC. I think it was in somewhere around 2009 or 2010, after which he called it quits. But this gentleman, out of his 13 victories in MMA, 8 of them were out of nasty submissions. And the sheer way of pulling into a submission, there was nothing more beautiful. Yes, Damian Maia is there, but man, Henzo Gracie is number 3 on my list as one of the sickest submission artists that we have ever seen in the world of MMA. Of course, I'm not talking about the greats who are known. I'm just talking about the guys who have not been given the due respect for what they've done inside.
You're right. You have to pay respect to the entire Gracie family who brought this sport to in the spotlight. When they came in, fighting was just a brutal sport then. It was 2 guys wailing on each other, throwing each other against cages and knocking each other out. And the Gracie family brought the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to show it essentially that a smaller fighter can beat a bigger man. A smaller man can beat a bigger man by using his own energy and force against him. And by the way, guys, especially women, I tell all my female friends and everybody that, Jiu-Jitsu is a great sport when it comes to taking and defending yourself. It is a great sport. You can use leverage and you can use, anything. You don't need to be the biggest, but you just have to practice at it. And once you get it, believe me, it becomes lethal.
Absolutely, yes. I couldn't agree more. That is such a beautiful message. I just urge, all the women, all the men out there, if you have not got the chance to train in wrestling or jiu-jitsu, just go out there, take a class, Google it, check it out, which is the closest center, and just give it a class. Not only is it good for self-defense, but it's massive in calorie and fat burning.
Oh my God, guys, you will die. I was gassed in like 1.5 minutes.
Absolutely.
I was tapping for different reasons. I like tapping. Sorry, I think my lung is outside. Like it was outside of my body. No, but it's great for your health. It's great for defense, and it's great mentally. Because I remember there's so many fighters that have said in the past, that before they got into submission grappling and learning jiu-jitsu or sambo or anything, especially guys who are who have good power, good stand-up, and, have knocked out guys in the past, they think that, you have that air of superiority. But the minute you step into a grappling class and you realize how easily somebody can just spin you down and submit you, it's very humbling. As an experience. It's very, very humbling.
Absolutely, yes. So, Mystic Chips, who's next? Who's number 3 on your list?
I don't know. I mean, I've thrown it out all there, but I think if I had to pinpoint anybody in particular, I would put BJ Penn as number 3, as one of the third best in the world.
He's just too good. Like seriously, what we spoke about BJ Penn, and we also spoke about the fact that he came into AKA where Bobby Southworth started his wrestling and his BJJ game by coaching him from the very basics, and from there becoming the BJ Penn who has fought from lightweight all the way up to heavyweight
to Machida in jungle fights. I remember.
Is something so commendable.
BJ
So
is the
commendable.
prodigy for a reason. He's one of the best submission grapplers I've ever seen.
Absolutely, yes. Undoubtedly, yes.
And Mr. Kamra, who do we jump to number 2, the spot number 2?
Wow. You know what? So, in fact, the next person on, it's very sad because I can't rank them. I'm just going to be telling you the next person on my list.
Let's not rank them because there are too many
Yeah.
good guys. Even BJ Penn can be number 1 as well,
I mean, there are just so many of them. So, the next person, the fourth person on my list is an undefeated MMA fighter called Rickson Gracie.
Man, Rickson Gracie. Again, Gracie. Gracie is cheating. They never lost in grappling.
So, the reason why I picked Rickson Gracie, because he reminded me of what Ronda Rousey was. Rickson Gracie was undefeated 11-0 in his MMA career. And the best part, he had all finishes and 7 of them were rear naked chokes.
That's an insane stat.
It's almost like Ronda Rousey going in for the armbars.
Ronda, there was a time when Ronda, all you had to give her was your arm. And then it's so funny. It's that entire judo base allowed her to do such amazing things. She would throw and
and
toss
even those
people.
trips and those throws. Yes.
Incredible, man.
Yes.
The Ashtabarai, the immediate hip toss that she threw and would land straight into that armbar. Like she submitted people like I would actually put Ronda up there as well as one of the best in the female division, one of the best submission grapplers, because she knew she had an X amount of skills and she used that to perfection. She didn't try to do anything more. We knew the worst is you knew what she was going to do and yet she went and did it.
Yes.
You knew what she was going to do. You know the armbar is coming. You know it's coming and it happened.
But you can't do anything.
Yeah, and it happened. I mean, it took quite a few years for somebody like Holly Holm to figure it out, that range, that distance, and stun her from the outside and get away from her. And then that was the blueprint. And, and I always say that, it's not a knock on someone's skills. It's your time is over. Your time is over. Yeah, as a champ, it's over. Even the greatest fall, even the greatest fall.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Would you say arguably one of the best grapplers and submission now and soon to become later submission grapplers, especially at the end of his career, was Khabib Nurmagomedov? I mean, he submitted. You can disagree, dude. Right? There are a lot of guys. This is a message that we just got on the TFG Insta saying, why aren't you guys talking about Khabib? And I'm like, okay, let's talk about Khabib. Khabib had a couple of notable submission wins, but okay, TK, not in the same bracket as Jacare and Ronda and Damian Maia and Verdum, but
so Khabib's career, I mean, this is a very personal view. I know I'm going to receive flack for this, but Khabib chose where he wanted to fight and how he wanted to do it. Like, for example, if you ask me Khabib or Aldo, I would still choose Aldo as an MMA fighter because he defended his belt many number of times. He was there in the game much longer. He faced credible opponents. He moved weight categories up and down. Is this
because of what happened recently in the media or the aage piche between Conor, Khabib and
Usne wine ko kaise na bola.
Seriously.
Sir Alex Ferguson offered him wine and he said,
yeah, I saw that.
If I have this, I will start beating up everybody. So let's not go there.
Khabib, man, you're retired. Just chill a little.
Yeah, but no doubt, he had the most glorious career ever. I just feel he's not done it all. In his spectrum, he's done it all. But in the sport of mixed martial arts, I felt he's not done it all because, he's not moved up weight categories. He's not really beaten some top guys. His last 3-4 fights were excellent.
But just in the submission part, like even Khabib had a game plan. He didn't try for anything new. He kept looking for an arm triangle and he would look for a neck crank or the rear naked choke. And he's managed to he pulled that off against Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. That's something.
Right.
That's something to say.
No doubt, he's done it all. But I don't know if I would put him as the greatest of all time, because someone like John Jones would be the greatest of all time.
Oh my God, we forgot about Jones' submission ability.
Exactly.
Oh God, and standing, dude. Standing, he'd do it.
Whilst we have the Verdums, we have John Jones, we have all of these guys. The fifth person on my list who I felt is very, very underrated, is Kazushi Sakuraba.
Dude, Sakuraba, it was in Japan during those days. There were so many great submission artists. And from Japan, Sakuraba was one of the most dangerous, man. I mean,
Yes. You know,
man, Sakuraba.
the only guy, the only guy to be known as the Gracie Hunter, who defeated Henzo Gracie and who defeated Royler Gracie.
Really? Wow.
By the Kimura.
Jesus.
And I was like, the guys who invented jiu-jitsu, of course, see, the guy who invented Chinese food doesn't need to be the best chef for the rest of his life. There are obviously going to be people who are better.
Yeah, correct.
But, at that point of time, I think it was late 90s in Pride, where the Gracies were ruling. It was a time, when they came off all these wins in UFC and they were kind of crossing over, going all over the world. And at that point of time, in their peak, Kazushi Sakuraba was beating them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I personally feel it was such a beautiful moment that, being called the Gracie Hunter itself is such an achievement. So
that's true. That's true. I mean, there is a certain amount of weight attached to that, that
right.
fear. It's like, okay, when you talk about knockout artists and you say, okay, you guys take names like, Anthony Rumble Johnson, Junior Dos Santos,
right,
Francis Ngannou. People are scared of their power. If Anthony touches you, you're in deep trouble. If Junior hits you with that overhand right, you're going to sleep. If Francis Ngannou breathes around you, you're going to get knocked out. And that was the kind of fear we saw in some grappling artists. And there was the fear we saw in you're facing Verdum, shit, don't go to the ground. Don't ever go to the ground.
Right.
And then he fixed that up in the standing.
Damian Maia,
the pure jiu-jitsu of Damian Maia. Damian Maia was not very threatening on his feet, but holy shit, when he went to the ground, you had to watch out against Damian Maia because his transitions, the way he would slice in and out of your guard was the thing to watch. And the sport is evolving every day, and jiu-jitsu is getting jiu-jitsu in MMA, not just competition jiu-jitsu in MMA, where people can punch still and do different things during transitions. It's becoming such an interesting sport. It's becoming so interesting that this is not a one-time conversation, Sobesh. It's going to be an evolving thing. But I would say the number one slot goes to somebody like Frank Mir, because Mir submitted Nogueira. Nogueira was one of the toughest artists, and nobody in his career had ever submitted Nogueira.
Yes.
And Frank
undoubtedly
Mir not only submitted him, broke his fucking arm.
He did.
After getting rocked.
Submit.
Dude, after getting rocked against the cage, remember? He went down and Nogueira tried to get a guillotine out of it. Frank reversed the guillotine, landed up on top, isolated an arm, and then went chest on chest. And Nogueira was rolling with that Kimura. He was rolling.
Correct.
Rolled twice over to try to get out of it. But Frank's grip, he had him.
Too strong.
You got to hear Herb Dean talk about it, man, in detail. The way he spoke about it, it was not, the trouble is it's also a thing of beauty to watch that chess match.
Yes.
And the way Mir, he pulled that arm in and Nogueira, the beast that he is, he's not going to tap. He's not going to tap.
Ways.
He's not going to tap. So he just stood there, and after his arm broke, his arm was limp on the side. And he looks at the referee and says, "Oh, is it broken? Okay, cool. Take care. I'll get it fixed." What do you say to somebody like that, dude? I think he was in disbelief that it happened.
Some of these tough SOBs are extremely difficult to tackle.
They are. So I'm a big Frank Mir fan, and I've always been a fan of his submission. He ruined the coming out party of Brock Lesnar with that knee bar. Remember Steve Mazzagatti talking about this? And he was the referee. And the world still gave him a lot of criticism, saying that, because you stopped the fight early when Brock was pounding on the back of Frank's head, Brock got submitted. But I would have said, okay, with Frank Mir, of course, everybody remembers what happened in the second fight where Brock destroyed Frank Mir. But Brock got caught. Frank took his opportunity, found that knee bar. And
absolutely, yes.
He snapped
absolutely,
that. Not to mention Tim Sylvia's arm.
The forearm.
It just went tuck. Like it snapped and went back into place.
Yes. In fact, there is an X-ray with that. The forearm basically has two bones.
Yes.
And both of them were cracked.
Shit. Have you noticed that in both his fights where the arms have cracked, it's been Herb Dean as the referee? Because Herb was there also.
Todo.
He's like, तू बिंदास तोड. अरे मी आहे रे, तू शांत राहा ना. मी आहे, तू तोड. त्यांनी टॅप नाही केलं, ओरडलं नाही, तर तू कर. How we talk, dude. How we talk. If all of these guys hear this now, they're going to come and rip us a new one, dude.
Well, they are going to hear it pretty soon.
But as we speak about hearing these things over and over, we must hear from you as well. The fans, the guys who listen to our show, the group of guys that have been messaging us. Thank you so much for all your positivity, your wishes towards the Fighting GOAT. Somesh and I thank you more and more. And you have lots of gifts coming your way. But join the conversation. Message us. Let us know who are your favorite submission grapplers. And who knows, man, we can probably get you a t-shirt or something more with your favorite grappler's signature on it. Now, I'm not promising yet, but it might happen in the future. You never know. Cross your fingers. This is the Fighting GOAT. That being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but come back to talk about next week's fight card only on episode 32 of the Fighting GOAT.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं। हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार।
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 32 of the Fighting GOAT. We've had a great conversation of the top submission artists.
We
Arjun,
were all over
AKA
the place, though. I mean, you can't blame us.
You were, not me.
Dude. I mean, I can't help it. Yeah, I can't.
I had my 5 picks absolutely spot on, but
Somesh, we got criticism for this. Not criticism. One of our listeners wrote to us saying that it is still, they like our style of doing this nonsense because it doesn't sound like a countdown show. Because we sound like two fans talking about it. We go all over the place. It happened in the Pride episode.
We don't want to be talking like Baba Cycle who says, Gana number 10, ye hai.
Number 10,
Gana number 9, ye hai. But kudos to Baba Cycle and Thanda Thanda Pani. It's still rocking most clubs.
Baba Cycle is a vampire, huh? Just FYI.
Yeah.
He's not aged. Yeah. It's what he looks the same that he did in the 90s.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. Like, in fact, he's become 36 years younger.
Seriously.
But speaking of who's become younger and stronger, are the two women who are coming on next week for UFC Vegas 39, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Vegas 39.
It is a female headliner.
Absolutely, where Mackenzie Dern and Marina Rodriguez show it down on a 5-round killer banger main event in the women's strawweight division. Of course, the card is still totally being built, but we have some crazy fights on that card. But we only have one prediction for this week, and that's for the main event of the evening, which is Mackenzie Dern and Marina Rodriguez. Mystic Chips, Mackenzie Dern coming back, with Jason Perillo. She's changed her cam. She's with Jason Perillo right now.
Oh man, Jason Perillo, if she's with Jason Perillo, her boxing will have improved tenfold.
Man, she's been a killer.
BJ Penn's hands were because of Jason Perillo. BJ Penn had great hands because he trained with Jason Perillo.
Well, there's BJ Penn, there's Michael Bisping, there's Chris Cyborg, there is Chito Vera, and now to his stable, there is Mackenzie Dern.
Fantastic. It's going to be, either way, it's going to be a good fight. That strawweight division is one of the deepest divisions in that women's category. It's a tough division to hang on to. That and bantamweight, man. Those are great divisions to fight in.
Absolutely.
So what's it going to be, Mr. Kamra? Mackenzie or Marina?
Okay. So I normally go with the person who's happier and more smiley. So for this particular reason, I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern because I think she's skilled in her striking and her jiu-jitsu is off the charts. So that's for me, it's going to be Mackenzie Dern. I'm also saying it's not going to go beyond round 3.
I agree it may not go beyond round 3, but I have got my bet placed on Marina Rodriguez.
No way.
I don't know.
Are you serious?
I just feel it. I just don't know.
You just want to go against me all the time.
That's also true. Then again, the scorecard is kind of self itself. You know, it's evidence of what is what.
Wow, so that's a very, very interesting pick. I know I really thought you would be in the same boat as me, but that's a very interesting pick. So Mystic Chips goes for Marina Rodriguez, and Superhuman Kamra is going for Mackenzie Dern. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to make your picks and send it to us, tag us, hashtag us like Vishal, and obviously get a chance to win some exciting merchandise. You are going to see us wearing our own merchandise next week because the Fighting Goat is coming up with such cool stuff. We also have fridge magnets coming our way, but that will only come to you if you tag us, hashtag us. IVM Podcast across all platforms. You can tag me somesh.kamra on Instagram. I know Instagram was not working yesterday, but it is working now. And on Twitter, it is somesh_kamra. Chips, hit your IDs.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. On Instagram, I am at Arjun Chips, and on Twitter, I'm at The Mystic Chips.
Awesome.
What about you, Mr. Kamra?
So now that you have heard it, you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter. Catch Arjun on Instagram and Twitter, and IVM Podcast across all platforms. So, guys, what are you waiting for? Make your picks. Talk to us. Submission artist.
Be like Vishal.
Predictions. There's so much. Be like Vishal.
Be like Vishal. But that being said, guys, one quick thing that we have to also mention is that we might be in conversation with Mr. Amir the King Khan and his manager, Bill Dosanjh. Yes, Amir the King Khan. Yes, the boxer, Amir the King Khan. Man, he is a huge superstar. I
cannot wait.
He's one of the nicest guys I've had the pleasure of meeting. He's commentated side by side with me. He is awesome and super cool. So our next broadcast is going to be coming from Dubai. We're going to be hopefully with these two.
Ooh, budget bad gaya.
That being said, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes episode number 32 of The Fighting Goat. This has been a pleasure. My name is Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, along with my partner, Somesh the Superhuman Kamra, saying sayonara and see you next week.
A wise man once said, traveling, it makes you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller.
Well, listen to such travel stories and experiences exploring India on the Musafir Stories with us, Saif and Faiza.
Catch us on the IVM website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Are you looking for finance products and services that can enhance your personal finance experience? Are you looking for a space to talk about your financial product or service? And are you looking for a crisp talk show where the conversation is all about money? Well, your search ends here. Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta and I'm host of the Paisa Vaisa podcast, and I invite you for the conversation about your personal finance on each Monday on the IVM Podcast app or the website or on any podcast streaming platforms. See you folks.